Hello, everyone, and welcome back to On the Curbs IndyCar. I'm your host, Nate Woods, and we are here today talking about our Dream 2026 IndyCar Grid. I'm joined once again by my co-host, Thiemo Albers-Daly. Thiemo, how we doing?
I'm doing good, thank you, Mr. Woods. How about yourself?
Oh, getting by.
Getting
I,
by.
I, we were talking about in the pre-show about Michael Andretti's home up for sale here in Indianapolis. That news broke yesterday, and we were kind of trying to come up with the $20 million that it would take for us to purchase that.
Yeah, I've definitely emphasized about a lot of large scale purchases. I don't think it's ever been for a house necessarily of that type. Let's go with that. I've looked at
Yeah,
the pictures and it's a very specific kind of market it's aimed at. Let's put it like that. But yeah, 20 million. It's we said if you've got that kind of money, you can probably have a good bit of fun with it anyway. So why not go and buy an Andretti house?
yeah. Well, we've mentioned it on the show before. I drive by Tony Kanaan's house every day on my way home from work, and it's only about maybe $1.5 million, $2 million. I think I'll just wait for him to move and purchase that one.
There we go. And something you may not have realized, because if I don't know if you ever go and look at the description for the episodes that we publish for this, but I always put a couple of links as to where else you can find myself. And then for you, I just say you can find Nate being cut up by Tony Kanaan in traffic. So that's been there for about the last 10 months or so.
Yeah, I haven't been cut off by him for a while, but he now that IndyCar season's over, I'm sure I'll see him a lot more out and about.
You just got to cruise around a bit more to make it happen.
Yeah, that's right. So maybe I'll see him walking down the street in my neighborhood one of these days. We don't live too far apart, so
Spoilers, however, he is not featuring much, if at all, in our Dream 2026 IndyCar grid,
it's true.
unfortunately. He
Yeah,
might be a team principal, but we didn't really go down that route. We focused on
yeah,
drivers. That was enough
yes,
trouble for us as it was.
yeah. Some of these teams were pretty easy, I think, to put together.
One in
Put together
particular
a
was the
lineup.
easiest I noticed
Yes,
going through the notes, which we'll get to, and all the others, there's a bit of difference. But yeah,
yeah,
we've got interesting
but
contrast, I feel like.
yeah. Let's just start off with Team Penske. Who's your dream lineup there at Penske for 2026?
This, this, and McLaren took me the longest, strangely. I feel like it's because of the prestige maybe associated with the team, because I know there's a certain amount of equality in IndyCar that you don't have in other series, but at the same time, you still want to be put in a certain team more than another, if
Yeah,
you catch my drift.
yeah.
So Scott McLaughlin was definite what I wanted to do with at least one of the seats. So I stuck him in. I was happy. I didn't want to ship him off to NASCAR, as I suspect you may have done. I'm leaving him there. And then I did what I'd said to you last week when we were talking about Indy Next and mentioning how I'd done a similar thing for Formula Two. I got rid of too many drivers. And I then had to fill some seats and think, who have I maybe been too
Yeah.
harsh with? So I added Joseph Newgarden back in and kept that uniform. And I just thought, it's a dream 2026 in my mind. 2025 has gone a lot different for the driver, so that I don't mind the transition over to IndyCar because I've stuck Fernando Alonso in alongside these two because I think that would just be a lot of fun.
Well, I know that you are relatively new to our sport, but Fernando Alonso is an Indy 500 Rookie of the Year recipient.
I did see that one race that he was in. I had time on that particular Sunday because I remember Jenson Button took over for him at Monaco and claimed that he was going to pee in his seat while he was away.
Yep.
And all good fun. So yeah, it was kind of that was in the back of my thought. I'd like to see him do a full season, and age doesn't seem to be a factor for him or IndyCar. So throw him in at a top team and let's see what happens. That'd be a lot of fun.
I feel like he is really in committed with Aston Martin in F1. I don't know if we can
In my
get.
mind, for this scenario, he's won the 2025 championship, and there's nothing left to prove.
Okay, I gotcha. All those other championships that he won before, it don't matter, right? It's got to be this one. Got to
Not
be
right
this
now.
year.
It's got to be this one. He's got to get that third one.
For me, I did include Joseph Newgarden in my team. I feel like he's kind of the cornerstone now that Will Power is gone.
Nashville
It,
redeemed him a lot. It's got to be
yeah,
said.
yeah. But obviously, David Malukas joining the team in 2026. I think our listeners know how high I am on David. And
Hmm.
now that we've got him to the pinnacle of teams, uh, I hope that
You
he
want
has
to
a.
keep him there.
I want to keep him there. But I went with Felipe Nasser. And being having an F1 background, I'm sure that's a name that you remember from a good time back. Um,
Yeah, that always caused a lot of fun when he was there because you'd look on the timing tower and it'd be Massa and Massa and you'd be and because they're both Felipe, you're going, oh, why? Why this doesn't happen often? When it does, it's very confusing. But he's gone and since done endurance racing, I believe, as well. So he's got a
correct.
pretty rounded background.
Yeah, and the reason why I've brought him on to Penske is he currently drives for Penske. He's in the
Okay,
organization already, and
that makes it.
so
I was curious as to why you chose it because like it's a name I was familiar with, but not one I was ever expecting.
you never expected to see. Yeah, so he is. Um, he's been a part of the Penske organization with their IMSA team for
Mm.
what 3 or 4 years now. And so I think he would be a good fit. Obviously, being already part of the Penske organization makes it easy for him to come in. Uh, doesn't quite have the name draw as Fernando Alonso does, but
Sorry to
uh,
go early on that one.
but you did bring up Scott McLaughlin. Obviously, I'd like to see him move to NASCAR. Uh, I think with Penske owning a NASCAR team as well, it makes it easy for that slide to happen.
And not spoiling who you've chosen, but for later on, you've made space over in NASCAR for him to slot in.
I
So
have.
there is potential for that to work. You've had a logic to it. It's
I
working out
did.
here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of pieces of the puzzle fitting together here. With Arrow McLaren, I did bring a NASCAR guy over
Mm.
for
I
for
considered
here.
this as well.
Yeah, Kyle Larson obviously has 2 years of Indy 500 experience under his belt with Arrow McLaren. His team was his NASCAR team was nice enough to allow us to have him for 2 months of May, and probably racked up a lot of airline points flying back
You
and
can get
forth.
that free cookie on the in-flight meal now.
That's right. Yeah. Um, I think, having an open wheel background, like he has, where, he came up through open wheel racing and he's shown that, he is capable of racing on road courses, street courses. But obviously, ovals are an integral part of IndyCar, and he definitely knows how to wheel around an oval. So I think he'd be a good fit. Keeping Pato Award there, as I think you probably did as well. But this is where I'm slotting Lockie Hughes in.
Yeah, Kyle Larson for me was a driver where I was thinking about that. We have a section later on for Indy 500 appearances. If we had too many drivers to choose from, which we both ended up having, who would we like to just see at least dabble? And I had him there. I maybe still do. And I was debating whether or not do I want him in the team for a full season. I think it'd be quite interesting to see how he would do. Like you say, he has a background, but then he's obviously switched over to NASCAR and he comes over to do the oval. So that would be a fascinating kind of experiment to observe and see how that would go. I've copied you and bringing Lockie Hughes up, but I didn't initially choose him. Um, I chose him though because I thought I felt not felt sorry for him, but I felt he'd been a bit hard done by this year because of Dennis Hauger, as we talked about in our Indian Extra View. And I thought it would be good to bring up a rookie that isn't the champion, that's maybe no offense, Jacob Abel can do a bit more with the opportunity. Um, and the confidence I have in putting him in is because he was initially going to be Valtteri Bottas instead, so I replaced Bottas with Lockie Hughes. So I've got big hopes for this fantasy of mine. Um, I also kept that award though, like you say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And that's why I also kept Christian Lundgaard. I didn't really need too much imagination for two of these seats. I thought it's a strong lineup. They can push each other. Lucky could learn a lot from them. Um, and that'd just be really interesting to see. I think Nolan Siegel, we can both agree, has been the weak link in that chain this year. So I'm surprised in some ways if he continues there next year. In my mind, he's not. So
Andretti Global. This one, I think we kind of, I think
I'd be
we,
curious to
this
see
was
how
the
we got to
easy
the same
one.
conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah, this one was kind of easy for us, I think. I don't think there's any changes. I think the team as it stands is the dream lineup,
Yeah, it's well, yes
or
and
near what it
no
is.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
near
Yeah.
what it is. It was like,
Yeah.
it's like someone's definitely living more in fancy land than
Yeah.
he realizes there for a moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, we both essentially kept willpower and Carl Kirkwood, and we both thought it high in time to replace Marcus Ericsson with.
Dennis Hauger.
It seems the more logical choice than what they did,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And just he has shown in a short period of time that he deserves to have the higher seat and to be with the top tier team. I think he is, so often we get, the champion from Indy Next that comes in. We have him for a few years and he moves on to some other series or he kind of burns out. I mean, we've seen that before many times. Um, but you also see Indy Next drivers that come in that get slotted in with a lower tier team and they can't show their full potential. I think Louis Foster is a prime example of that in 2025. Got saddled with, winning the Rahal Letterman Lanigan lottery and had to sweat out a year there. And, we know that he's a
It,
capable driver, but he's not able to show it in equipment that's lacking. So having Dennis Hauger move to Andretti Global, would I think we both feel the same with him. He's ready to prove himself, or he already has proven himself, and is ready to be on that top tier team.
Yeah, for me, the F1 analogy I have for that is I understand why you put George Russell and Williams for a few seasons before bringing in Mercedes, but as you've now proven with Kimi Antonelli, you can stick Green Driver into the top team and it not go too badly. And it would have been
Yeah,
fascinating to see what George Russell would have done when Mercedes were being dominant and how things might have been different for those few seasons. So to stick to the Albert and Andretti, like we say, we really want to find out the answer to that what if, because I'm not saying he's going to do terribly next year, but I'd wager if he was with Andretti Global, he'll probably do better there next year than he would with Dale Coyne.
yeah,
Because I'd be surprised. Just no offense against Dale Coyne, but it's just you'd be surprised if Dale Coyne as a team or an individual driver is doing better than Andretti Global drivers. That's
yeah,
just I don't think that's too
yeah.
controversial a thing to say.
It'll be interesting in 2026 from reality standpoint with Dennis Hauger at Dale Coyne. You know, is Dale Coyne with Dennis Hauger set up to be the next Meyer Shank?
Mm.
Meyer Shank was a team that, just 2 seasons ago, we're like, oh, this is a team that just kind of being a field filler. Yeah, they had some success at the Indy 500 with Helio Castroneves, but then all of a sudden their trajectory changed when they had the right drivers in place. So, um, they're knocking on the door of being a top tier team. Is that where Dale Coyne is heading?
I'd
Probably
like
not,
it.
because I figure we would like it to happen, but I think Dennis Hauger is one of those drivers where they're going to only have him for a season, maybe two,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he gets the
There's got to
good
be a
call. So
serious change behind the scenes for him to think this is worth investing in long
yeah,
term, and I should turn down the likes of Andretti. Because again, I'm not predicting Marcus Ericsson's going to have a 180 transformation next season and suddenly be the
yeah,
goat, you know.
yeah,
So I should quick word on Will Power and Carl Kirkwood. There's no reason not to,
right,
quite frankly.
yeah,
Carl Kirkwood did enough last year for me, or this year rather, to be a consistent third driver
mhm,
there and good
yeah.
for how good to learn from a Will Powers. Leave Will Power. Why the
He's
hell would you
willpower.
not?
Yeah, right. Chip Ganassi Racing is where we kind of departed from our agreement on some things. We went in some different directions here.
I have. This is where my questions start, to be honest, because looking through the rest of your teams, my first initial question is, what the hell have you done to Alex Palou? Because he does not feature in Chip Ganassi, and spoilers, he doesn't feature in any of your IndyCar teams.
That
Where's he
is true.
going?
He is either going to be sidelined or will be traveling with F1. Uh,
Okay, so
uh,
sidelined is a ballsy move to do to your four-time champion.
Sidelined due to legal reasons. we'll say.
Okay, I see where
You
you're going.
know,
He's
we had
following
some,
McLaren around in F1, is he trying to just
yes.
shake fists at them?
Yeah. You know, he's still battling his legal issues with his contract disputes a few years ago with Arrow McLaren. And there was an interesting article that I read over the weekend. Alex Palou was it he? I think he was over by you, I think, for court proceedings.
Oh,
Um,
yes, yes.
but stemming from this contract dispute. Alex Palou sounds like, from the quotes that I'm reading in the article, that he uh, he doesn't make a lot of money. He doesn't get to keep a lot of his money. Uh,
Which
he
boggles
has
the
a
mind a little bit.
Yeah, he does have a deal worked out with Chip Ganassi where Chip is covering his legal expenses, but Alex Palou is having to pay him back, and so to for one person to be the defendant against a large corporation like McLaren, that cannot be cheap. And so
No,
I imagine a good portion, it sounds like a good portion of his salary is going towards legal expenses.
there is a lot of
And
potential there, though, for future incredibly entertaining commercials for things you never thought you'd see Alex Palou promoting, just for the money.
Alex Palou, like, look at this Taco Bell burrito.
Exactly. I'm just putting that out there now. I think that'd be great. That'd be great fun. Every third advert is just him promoting something.
Yeah, yeah, he's gonna do Jimmy John's commercials because they're freaky fast.
I was thinking more of a had a contract dispute with your employer. Go to X and X lawyers.
You know, it's funny you bring that up because Frankie Muniz in NASCAR,
Hmm.
he was an actor, child actor, Malcolm in the Middle. I'm sure you guys had reruns of that
Yeah,
show
yeah.
over there, and he races in NASCAR now, and he has an attorney as his title sponsor.
Well, there we go. It's not
So it's
unprecedented.
not unprecedented to have an attorney on a car. So, yeah. So I don't think in my dream scenario, Alex Palou is not racing anywhere
The
next
things you'll
season.
do to balance the playing field slightly.
Yes, or he's going to be in F1. But I did keep Scott Dixon. I think he is the elder statesman in the series, and therefore deserves a larger seat at the table. I like him. Keeping him at Chip Ganassi makes sense. Obviously, finishing third in the points, even at his advanced age.
So you saying elder statesman then deserves a bigger seat, but he's also earned the seat. He keeps winning. He keeps
It's
being up
true.
there. So
Very true. Yeah.
it's not like you're just being charitable to the old
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. But I feel like a couple, well, I've got two other names here. These are guys coming over from NASCAR that I think
I am familiar with both, but I'm still
would
surprised to see you put them A together and B here.
together. Yeah. Well, so there was a reason why I put them together on this team. Shane Van Gisbergen, who
Mhm.
obviously has dominated the street and road courses in NASCAR this year. We had six road course races in NASCAR this season, or street and road courses, and he won five of them. So, uh, you know, uh, the results speak for themselves with him, and I think he would really shine in IndyCar, where over half of our schedule is street and road courses, and
Hmm.
so I would love to see him come to IndyCar. But also Connor Zilisch, which I'm surprised is a name that you're
Dominant
somewhat
force.
familiar with.
I've been
You
watching
know,
the highlights. I do my homework.
younger kid. He's only 19 years old, but has kind of had this star shot trajectory in NASCAR to get him where he's at. He's going to be running. I think he's running NASCAR full time next season. Um,
Be surprised if he isn't with how he's performing this year.
yeah, yeah, and with he's in the Xfinity Series. He's had 33 starts and with 11 wins and
Hmm.
24 top tens.
Which is
So,
ridiculous for a driver of his age and experience, like you say.
yeah, yeah. And so the reason why I picked these two drivers, Illich and Van Gisbergen, is Chip Ganassi, who used to have a NASCAR team, their assets were purchased by what is now Trackhouse, which is
Okay, yeah.
really competitive team here in NASCAR. And obviously, with Shane Van Gisbergen racking up 5 wins in a season, of course they're going to be competitive. But though, with their team in NASCAR being the remnants of Chip Ganassi, I think that gives it a strong enough bond where it makes sense for these two drivers to come to Chip Ganassi.
Maybe Alex Palou goes over to NASCAR.
I,
Maybe that's where you put him.
I
Takes
don't
out a lot of
think
his
that would,
frustration.
yeah, I don't think that would quite work out. But uh, you went a little bit more conventional.
Yeah, I didn't put any NASCAR drivers in. I don't think I put any NASCAR drivers in anywhere for that matter. I kept Scott Dixon for the reasons we mentioned. It would be criminal to leave him out. He decides when he leaves. No one else has that right. I kept Alex below because I just think with the grid that I have made, it would be interesting to see if any of my additions in their new homes could take the fight to him and if it would help elevate the consistent drivers I've kept from one year to the next to take him on in a way because we've proven that while he did win quite convincingly this season, you can't beat him. So I wonder maybe you just need to switch up the recipe slightly and maybe that's how you can overcome at least for a bit longer, even if he does still come out on top, you can maybe have the fight go on to the end of the season and it's a bit closer and it's not just two drivers in theory taking on, it's four or five and we get kind of that classic NASCAR feel to it. But then I added in one of two of my rows where I'm going. I don't care what logic says. I'm doing this for gut feeling and the heart. And that's but going off as well yesterday. We saw him in an IndyCar for the first time at his test at IMS, putting Nick Schumacher alongside the pair of them. I think he got a bit hard done by in Formula One, and he's gone off and he's still been able to tread water and do some endurance racing since then. But I think he was meant to do single seater racing, and there's no room at the in F1 anytime soon. And IndyCar would be a great fit for him. I think he said yesterday that it felt like the one of the best things he's ever done. I think, or one of the best decisions he ever made is to sign up for this test. I hope it's more than just a test. I don't mind if he signs with Rahal for next year, or if he goes somewhere else. In my mind, Chip Ganassi, obviously. But I think again, he's driver where stick him in a top team. Let him learn from people like Palou and Dixon. You could then get a Schumacher that is good again. Because let's face it, unless you're Michael, the other relatives haven't really lived up to it in the racing side of it. Yeah, Ralph and David are there, but that's kind of a that's nice. You took part. You
Yeah.
did all right, but you don't really hold a candle to him. Whereas Nick, I feel like there was always a bit more there, and he's a Formula Two champion as well, so
Mhm.
he's on the same level as someone like Dennis Hauger, beaten the likes of Lundgaard before in equal machinery, and that would just be a lot of fun, I think. So yeah, rookie, not rookie, rookie
Yeah.
for that third seat.
Yeah, it's an interesting pick with Schumacher. I don't know how I feel about him because I feel like, growing up in a time where I got to watch, you're a good amount younger than I am, so you didn't necessarily get to watch his father
I got
in
the
his
latter
prime.
end.
You got the latter end. I got to see him actually in person win races, and so,
Yeah, no, I
uh,
didn't get to do that.
and you know, it just Mick was always going to be playing second fiddle to his dad.
Hmm.
We knew that he was never going to be at the same caliber as his father. And I think that kind of, I don't want to say soured me on Mick, but when I saw him race in F1, I'm just like, oh, that's Mick Schumacher doing Mick Schumacher things. And it's like, yeah, we just,
That's why I think
yeah,
IndyCar would be a good place for him because it's similar but different enough for him to follow in the footsteps but create a different path for it and go, well,
yeah.
Dad didn't do it in IndyCar.
I
That's my
just,
guy.
I always felt like Mick was like, and that you're gonna be mad at me for this for saying this, but I always felt like Mick was like Mick crawled so Lance Stroll could drive, and
I'm intrigued as to what the hell you mean by that.
you have a father who has opened a path for you in a sport
Right.
that you probably didn't have all the correct pieces of the puzzle to
I'd say it
have
definitely
longevity
helped
in.
Mick, but I'd also just counter that with at least he won championships and races and
That's true.
proved himself. And I think if he'd been in the sport as long as Stroll has been, he'd have gotten a lot more out of it by now. And when you
That's
think about
true.
it, he only really had one season in the sport because the
Yeah.
2021 Haas was one of the worst things ever created, unknown to man. So yeah, agree to disagree slightly.
Yeah. Uh, AJ Foyt Racing, you have brought over another interesting name that I would love to see, but certainly not one that I
I, I'm
expected.
I am leaning heavily into the dream aspect here because I know it's not going to happen unless something miraculous occurs. Um, but first of all, I went with Dayle because I've relegated him back down to AJ Foy, so I'm still bitter about the willpower business. But I also think he would be good for that team. I think he did a decent enough job there this year, and I feel like AJ Foy is an outfit that is on the rise if they just keep things consistent, and they need to build a little bit like Meyer Shank are doing at the moment. And I would like to see that continue, and I think he's an important part of that. And then on the flip side, I decided I would love to see him in IndyCar in every way, shape, or form. So I put in Daniel Ricciardo. So I've got to get him somewhere, and I feel like his career obviously ended on a bit of a sour note, and I think IndyCar is the ultimate redeemer. You know, it's going, yeah, you shafted me enough times, Red Bull. Now watch me go and take this midfield team up to the top with this young hotshot, and it's kind of this Apex GP F1 movie style thing of yeah, I still got a bit of juice there for the tank.
Yeah, I love Daniel Ricciardo. Hilarious. I think he would definitely be one of the bigger personalities, very reminiscent of Tony Kanaan for me,
And I
and
think we could get an
personality-wise.
IndyCar race at Kota then with his kind of backing as well. There'd be enough
That's right.
people going to like, you know what, I don't know who any of these other people are, maybe, but I know him. That'd be better than the Arlington race, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I went very conventional with AJ Foyt. I'm putting the dream team back together of Santino Ferrucci and Connor Daly. I just,
It would either go incredibly well or be disastrous. There'd be no middle ground.
yeah. I think both of them just personality wise, driving style wise, just fit the team perfectly. And I'd love to see those two guys back together again.
I think it'd be the one time I'd be glad that there isn't a constructors championship in IndyCar because it means that the two drivers wouldn't have to work together, which is probably for the best considering
Yeah.
how well things usually go when they get anywhere near each other on track.
Okay. Juncos Hollinger Racing. Yeah, I had trouble with this one. This is one of the teams I had trouble filling. Um,
We've
and
gone for two very different drivers of both. There's no, I think this might be the first time we've had. Oh no, with the exception of this, the AJ Foyt, then this we
yeah.
now start to diverge quite a bit in our choices.
Yes. Yeah. Juncos Hollinger is where I'm moving Louis Foster to.
Mhm.
Um, but I think, obviously with the season that he had at Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, I would love to see him somewhere else. And
I can
I think he
understand that.
deserves, yeah. But this is also where I would love to see Callum Ilott end up. I think he pre-PREMA, you know, he was kind of one of those journeyman drivers that kind of came in and out of the sport. And every time he popped up, you're like, oh yeah, Callum Ilott, you remember him from, 3 seasons ago when he ran 3 races or something. So,
The younger man's Nico Hulkenberg.
yes, yes, exactly right. Yeah. And I think he's proven over the last several years that he deserves a seat. And I think this would be a good fit for him.
Yeah, Juncos Lodge is an interesting one for me because obviously I've got less experience over on IndyCar than you do, but it's a team where I was trying to figure out is it an upgrade from Rahal Letterman, or does that depend on the season, the venues, the team? It's kind of a bit, it fluctuates a little bit for me. So I understand why you wanted to move Louis. It's more just of a maybe a parental protective maneuver more than anything else. Um, but yeah, I've not put him in there. I've stayed consistent and put Connor Daly in there. I want to give him another season because I think so much of this year it was just consistently close but no cigar. And we joked about how many times he's posted, it's just not my weekend this weekend. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, it's not been your weekend all
yeah,
year. And I think for the personality, for the driving style as well, and for this mid-pack team as well, perfect compliment to him. And someone who I think would get on really well with kind of Daly on and off track would create some brilliant off track interviews and content to keep fans engaged as well. Would be Kevin Magnussen. He's been in the NASCAR world when he left F1 the first time, if I'm remembering correctly, or the endurance racing world.
endurance
He was
racing. Yeah,
around somewhere. Endurance,
yeah,
that was it. And just always thought that the aggressiveness of IndyCar with how more lenient you can be at times, especially with the stewards, would complement him in particular with some of the maneuvers we've seen him make over the years. It's hard racing, but it's fair. And I think, do you imagine if he'd been in Nashville going up against, or not Nashville, sorry, Milwaukee up against Rasmussen? I think that would have been a really exciting addition to an already exciting fight for the win
yeah.
there. So yeah, it's fun to see K-Mag back. He's off doing stuff and it's fine, but there's something about him in single seaters that I just prefer, especially when he doesn't really he gives the impression of just not caring. He's just there to go racing. It's maybe the win isn't on, but I've got a chance, and that's more than I've maybe had before. So why shouldn't I go foot to the floor with it?
Yeah. I just had to look up Kevin Magnussen. He is younger than I ever thought he was. For some reason, he's always, it seems like he's always been around just in F1 and
It's
uh,
because he came into F1 at such a young age.
yeah, it must be
At
because
that
I mean
point,
he's only 33 years old. And
mm.
so he's got plenty of years left in the tank. I just thought that he was much older than that. So
Well, I mean, maybe not now, but later, but have a Google of how young he looked when he got on a podium in Australia in his debut race. You're thinking, is that the same guy? It looks like it's his kid or something. Very, very different. Meyer Shank Racing is a team though where we've heavily diverged again, and you've got one commonality with your two drivers, but it's in name only.
yeah, yeah, I'm going with the dream team, not just for 2026, but in real life. Christian Lundgaard and Christian Rasmussen, best friends on and off the track. Uh, Pairing them up, I think, obviously they're next door neighbors here in Indianapolis. They grew
Hmm.
up together and grew up coming through racing. Now, once you get to a certain level, the trajectories kind of diverged, but now they're back together in the same series here in the States. And I would love to see them on the same team. You know, that tight of a bond would really work well, I think, with a team like Meyer Shank, and the team that we've seen in the past. The drivers have really strong bonds, not just with each other, but with the team itself. This is a team that's now has Helio Castroneves as one of its one of its
Hmm.
primaries. So, um, I think having drivers who are that tight with each other off the track would really work well with a team like this.
And then there's the potential for it to build all the way towards Mercedes 2016 Spain sort of situation, which would be then incredibly entertaining for everyone to watch as well. Um, yeah, that I hadn't considered it from that perspective. So it'd be an interesting pairing, and like you say, how long before you kind of again I make the Mercedes comparison, but you have Bahrain 2014 of joshing with each other after the race about how close and how fun it was the whole time to fast forward a couple of seasons and they're at each other's throats trying to get a title.
Yeah,
That'd be quite a fun story to watch. I've gone very boring with this one. I've just kept it exactly the same as it was this year because I don't see what was wrong with it at any point, and I don't think there was anything wrong with it, to be honest. So Marcus
yeah,
Armstrong, Felix Rosenquist to keep the dream going. That was an
yeah.
incredibly good season from the pair of them, and I've got no reason to meddle with that.
Yeah. If the dream's not broke, don't fix it, right?
Well, unless it's you.
Yeah, right. So, Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing, this was the team that I think I struggled with the
Yeah,
most.
I noticed this because I've got questions about at least two of those
And,
drivers.
and I had question marks pretty much across the board. And this was I think the last team that I filled. For
You
me,
didn't want to go down the route of last season where you put five drivers in instead. You just wanted to keep it at three.
I'm gonna keep it at three. Um, we talked about the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan lottery with Louis Foster earlier, and it's kind of like, yeah, you're in the series, but you're with what we could maybe consider the worst team. So it's like, who do I want to put into that team? Who am I going to saddle with
We're
the
definitely
idea
taking
of
different approaches to this.
yeah. Now we did have one name in common.
We
I
did.
will say, yeah, Jamie Chadwick. Um,
I, yeah, I was thinking about this, and it's the first female driver we both put in. I've got a couple more coming, but I just thought, yeah, she's been around the block enough times now for me to think, yeah, there's potential to see what would happen in a team like Rahal, where the consequences of doing badly are not too catastrophic should it not go the way we want it to. But should it go well, it's a nice strong foundation. The expectations are a bit low, but she's proven herself in single seaters in the junior categories, both in Europe and in America. She's done a bunch of endurance racing. She's done a little bit of off-road racing. So there's a
mhm,
nice roundness to it, and I just
mhm.
think, yeah, if we go for dream scenarios, why not throw her in there? And I think
Yeah.
there's so many younger female drivers coming up that I'm not even going to be as ambitious to put them in straight away. But I don't feel like the more experienced ones that have helped pave the way for them should then have to miss out on it. And that's the common theme with the other ones I've chosen as well.
Yeah.
Not for this team; it's not an all-female team. I've not done that, but I just thought Jamie deserves a shot.
Yeah.
You know, it's the kind of thing. If you're terrible for a season, fine, no
Yeah.
issue with that.
Be
Been
terrible at
lost,
Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. Yeah.
yeah. But if you do well, then I'm taking all the credit.
Yeah. Then you're off to Dale Coyne. Um, yeah. My other drivers were strictly financial. Um,
Okay.
this is a
I,
team
I,
that,
I definitely explained one of them.
yeah. Kiffin Simpson and Nolan Siegel. These two drivers obviously are two of our. I hate using the term
Mm.
pay driver, but they're two drivers that a lot of family money comes along with them when they receive a seat
Mm.
in the series. I struggled with where to put these two because I initially wanted to maybe put them at PREMA because that
Mm.
is also a financially struggling team that would benefit from a cash infusion from either one of these drivers, if not both. But
Mm.
ultimately, I put him with Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. You know, you can't have a team run that bad season after season and there just be an endless supply of money. There has to be some kind of money coming in. And I feel like they're going to have to change their strategy and have more money coming into that team. And, Kiffin Simpson, in all fairness, I think towards the end of last season, we started seeing flashes of brilliance with him.
That was what I was
Uh,
going to say. I think of the two of those, I can live with him being there more just because there was that. Even if it wasn't always in the results, he was getting near to good results, and he did get, the result on occasion as well. And there was that sort of, okay, I'm starting to see what I would like to see from you. And what we were saying is that you don't need to be winning races or be on the podium every single time, but we need to see that there is something there. And we did get to see that. So I can
yeah.
I can I can look over the family money, as you say, on that side of things. I was just surprised that you put Nolan Siegel in there because I just thought you've got the entire motorsport spectrum. Your Cream 2026 IndyCar grid, and you put Nolan Siegel in
Well, it was either him or Stingray Rob.
there.
So,
I'm not getting involved in that
who
one.
did you have to be teammates with Jamie?
I kept Louis Foster there because my approach for this was okay, yes, a team that is not on the up, but it would be nice if it was. I'm
Mhm.
taking an optimistic route, and I think there's a bit of consistency with Louis Foster in the same way that you look at, say, Alex Albon and Williams. He was there when they were struggling. He's reaping some of the benefits of that now. it'd be nice if we had an IndyCar version of that we could see in a long-term way. Jamie obviously then complements that really nicely as a rookie, but who's familiar with it. And then you've got a more experienced driver in Rinus VK who can help them both. He's not vastly more experienced, but is experienced enough to also want to stay with the team for a bit, help build them up, and reap the rewards from it. And I just think that'd be a really nice team outfit that could then you've got a nice kind of fresh approach. It's an all European lineup, and that then maybe helps open the door for some European sponsorships, some more popularity for IndyCar in Europe, helps get some exhibition races that way, a bit more of following, and help to kind of breathe a bit of fresh life into the team that arguably could need it. And if
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert's not around to be another talk show host to
Yeah.
fund some money into it to go along with Letterman, then this is what I'll do instead.
Yeah. So, one driver that obviously is missing from our dream lineup with this team is the team owner's son, Graham Rahal. Does he become a crew chief, or does he just retire and lounge on the beach somewhere? What do you think? Where's Graham going in our dream lineup or nightmare lineup as it may be with this team?
That would be a fun thing to do. What's the worst combination of drivers we could stick in all of these teams? That's maybe maybe if we ever get to a final episode of this podcast, maybe that's what we do, and we just burn all the bridges. Um, I don't know where I would have put Graham. I didn't put him in any of the team, as you can imagine. Um, I just I didn't give him any thought. To be perfectly
Yeah,
honest, I
neither
just
did
thought
I.
I'd be. I think I don't dislike him enough to be kind of throwing him out deliberately, but I just think maybe he's better in a different role or in a different series. Maybe they've got enough money to maybe go and have a single entry in endurance racing or go and do a Baja or something. I don't know. Just
Yeah.
go and maybe life with him, have a nice time with it. We're going to try and save your team a bit.
Yeah, go work at his Ducati dealership down the street here.
There you go. Cut
Yeah.
Nate off in traffic. Give Tony Kanaan a break.
Yeah. Dale Coyne, or no, I'm sorry, Ed Carpenter. I almost skipped Ed.
Oh,
uh,
we've got a similarity and a difference.
yeah, and yeah, we both are looking to keep Alexander Rossi on that team. I think he's an awesome fit with this team. I think
Yeah.
we're seeing a bit of a resurgence from him. I think he's found a home that fits him at this point in his career, and I don't foresee him leaving that team anytime soon. We could be
No,
doing this
no.
dream lineup for the next 5 years, and I think he's still going to be on the list for that team.
I'd
So,
be happy with that. I was thinking
yeah,
he's had the similar season this year to Nico Hulkenberg over in F1 in terms of
yeah,
he seems to be comfortable now with this team. And yeah, maybe they don't have the capabilities that we'd all like them to have, but there's potential there. And, it's sort of thing of you can't rule out that combination being a winning combination should the right conditions come that way. And as we saw in Silverstone this year with Hulkenberg, it can happen
yeah,
after so long. And Rossi would be another great way for him. As we said before, the amount of investment that is being put into Ed Carpenter Racing's future
yeah.
makes us cautiously optimistic about
Yes.
maybe there's something
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Now we both picked for our second driver on this team. We both picked kind of reruns, we'll say, drivers that have been with this team in the past, and now we're bringing them back. This is where I'm putting Renus VK. Uh, oh, yeah, we've already talked about him. Where you put him over Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. Um, Definitely showed enough this season. I think he surprised a lot of people with kind of being the last addition to the season or to the lineup for the season, and uh, definitely definitely want to see him in 2026 somewhere. But you went with, like I said, another rerun.
Yeah, I stuck Christian Rasmussen on inside there because I can understand why you put VK in there. I think that'd be a great fit as well. Have I not assigned him elsewhere?
Yeah,
But Christian Rasmussen, yeah, I just think it's not broke either. That kind of that combination. I think just continue that Rossi and him together as partners. It's maybe not the dream lineup of him and Lundgaard that you'd like elsewhere, but I think it's not a bad second fit if that has to happen either. And another driver where I could see him staying there for many seasons, building and growing with the team to get them into the championship contending outfit. And regardless of if they succeed in that endeavor or not, it's be good to have that chance and to see that story. And you'll need to do it once for it to then be the perfect kind of capstone for it.
Dale Coyne Racing. Uh, Again, we
Hmm.
have one driver in this lineup that we agree on with
I
Jack
think
Harvey.
we can say we're both still hurt he's not officially a full-time driver next year,
Yeah.
so we're trying to manifest as hard as possible here. We both want him there. You know, he's such a good sport off track. But we've seen from Indy 500 even this year. You know,
Yeah.
it's he was out of the car for how long, and he was still doing well. And it just be again, you just want to see him get a full season, get the
Yeah.
opportunity, right?
Yeah. Although I will say this season I did really enjoy him being commentator. He really,
Have him
I
do
mean,
it from inside the car.
he really grew into that position. You know, that first race at St. Pete, he was definitely a fish out of water. And you're like, oh boy, what if, what was this decision? He was just kind of uh
Very green.
he'd had some training with the microphone in his hand and they turned him loose and but it didn't even take him half the season for him to become a great color commentator for the
He got the
series.
nickname, he got the graphics for
Yeah,
his pit lane walk.
that's right.
It wrote itself, you know. And he did
Yeah,
the commentary as well for some of the races for Indy Next, and I thought we're doing quite a decent job of that as well at times.
yeah,
When I did hear his voice, I thought, yeah, it makes sense for an ex-driver as much as he is to go in and talk about the the old adage of if you can't do,
yeah,
teach sort of thing. If you
right.
can't race, commentate.
Yes. I went with Jack Crawford as my second driver at
Hmm.
Dale Coyne.
Pleasant surprise
Um,
to see that.
you say you were surprised?
Pleasantly.
Okay, okay. He is, uh, one of the F1 drivers or F Series drivers that I brought over. He currently is in F2. Um, I think bringing him back to America would be a good move for some team, and I think teaming him up with a veteran driver like Jack Harvey could really help him. Uh, Learn more. Not saying that obviously he's a decent driver in F2. He's got 6 wins in that series, and so he's certainly not a slouch. But a lot of times with F2, you don't get the benefit of having a seasoned veteran to lean on
No,
or
no, it's
to
true.
you know glean any expertise from. So I think teaming him up with a driver like Harvey would really help him a lot. Plus, obviously, we always love seeing F1 or Americans go to F Series and seeing what they can do there. Obviously, Colt Hurt is going to make a go at it, and it's kind of our next rising star to go to F1. But uh, it's always
He
nice to
says
have him
through
back.
gritted teeth.
Yes, yes.
No,
uh,
it's true with Jack. I think it's one of those. He's one of those drivers where there was an outside shot at that Cadillac seat for next year, but realistically, that was not going to happen. And I don't see him getting into F1 anytime soon. But I still think that he's one of these drivers where there is a lot of potential in there. I don't know what that all looks like, but I wouldn't want his career cut short, or for him to have to go off into a different racing series that's not single seater just because. And try and buy this time there and then move back. I'd rather he got the opportunity in something where he could excel at. And I think
yeah,
IndyCar would be a good fit for him, like you say.
yeah.
Um,
Now, I've got questions about your second driver.
I'm very much going off the conversation we had in our Indy Next review of being hard done by and deciding, well, if I can do anything in this reality, then I will. Um, and if you're not, if I don't know if I'm funding this seat. I don't know if um, I don't know who's funding it basically, but someone decides, you know what? There's a great line from a TV show. If you've what's the point in having fuck you money if you can't say fuck you? So I'd like to use that a few times, um, and go. Let's if you're not going to give her a full season in Indy Next, I'm going to give her a full season in IndyCar, and let's see what happens. And I think as I said before, if it doesn't go well, fine. But I would like to give everyone a chance, and I think you're not going to get any other chances anywhere else. So why not go for it? Go big or go home. So I stuck Sophia Flörsch in there alongside Jack Calvin. I think there'd be a fun dynamic with the two of them. It's another team where the expectations maybe aren't terribly high, for through no fault of the team or the drivers. That then gives you a little bit less pressure, and you can just get on with the in and out.
Yeah, I have to say, it was an interesting pick. It would be fun. It's been a while since we've had multiple females in IndyCar in the same
There
season.
was that kind of thought about it as well. Instead of just having one and all the pressure being on
Yeah.
that individual.
Last but not least, we have PREMA. This was another team that I kind of struggled with um, in trying to figure out who I'm going to slot in with PREMA. That's was kind of the same deal as Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, where it was like, this is a team that needs something. It needs a cash infusion, and they're going to need
Yeah,
a big cash infusion to collect one of my dream drivers, and that would be Marcus Armstrong.
yeah. I was thinking on the same lines on the money front. I was thinking of a silent partner that goes, "I'm going to give you a shit ton of money. Do something bold. Do something different,
Yeah.
and let's see if we can make it work." But I think for both of our choices, we'd want them to be there for multiple seasons. As again, we want to do a lot of team building. We want to have a lot of growth with these teams and have them not switching too much. And that's not great for the driver market for the future.
Right.
But it's kind of, I think for us, I think the thing we can agree on is that if you do badly, we will replace you. But if you do well enough, we'll keep you and we'll try and be consistent, solid, so we can build up some momentum with all these lower tier teams, so that we can get a push towards the front. And I think Mark Armstrong is a solid choice for as part of that. Is the experience is there's enough of it there to be beneficial for
Yeah.
a team like PREMA. And again, there's that slight connection back to Europe, where he's obviously been around them, even if not necessarily racing for them, to know what the deal is.
Yeah. Uh, my second driver at Prema is a name that I'm surprised you did not have anywhere in your dream lineup.
I was going to say I was surprised you went for it.
I'm going with Cal Collette as my second driver. I think he showed enough in Indy Next this season that I think he's ready to move up. I
Hmm.
don't not ready for a top tier team, but um,
Evidently.
uh, yeah, evidently yes with my selection from I was
There is an outside
intrigued.
chance, Colette, that your car may try to kill you a couple of times, but apart from that, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Your picks, I was not necessarily surprised with, but more intrigued.
Yeah, I will say the reason I didn't choose car collectively is that I used my other card on Lockie Hughes over in McLaren. I thought I can't start bringing all of them in,
Yeah.
otherwise I'm not going to have any seats for anyone. So I'm glad at least one version of our Twisted Realities has favored. Like you said, I don't think he's not done enough. I just didn't know where to put him because I had other drivers that I just had ahead of him in the queue. I'm sorry, you're just going to have to go win Indy next year, and then 27. What do we got?
Yeah.
27.
Yeah.
Um, I've gone for Jack Doohan, first of all. I've got a soft spot for him, and I think Alpine, it's going to be a while before I forgive them, if ever. And I think, again, IndyCar, I don't want to keep having it as this, it's not a retirement home, but it's or a forever home. Except does IndyCar a disservice, but I just think it's a really good place for drivers to get a second chance that they genuinely deserve. And it's annoying that there's not more seats available in F1 for it. I know we're getting another two next year, but in my opinion, they're wasted on the drivers that they're putting in there.
Yeah.
And I want to see Jack Doohan racing. I watched him when he was in Formula 3 and Formula 2, and there was a little bit like Lundgaard. It was a case of close but no cigar, but there was that bit of something, something. And
Yeah.
we've never got the chance to fully see it. And now we're getting to see it with Lundgaard. And I feel so vindicated every time I see him doing well. So it's like, whatever he lacks in charisma and interviews, he makes up for on track.
Yeah.
And I would like to see that opportunity with Jack Doohan.
Yeah.
And then,
Doohan is one of those drivers that the name has floated around in F1 and feeder series for so long. it just,
You probably think
it,
he's about 40 as well, and he's only about 20 something because
yeah,
he's like he's
yeah.
been around forever.
But he, you know, that's one you kind of mentioned it briefly with F1. Unfortunately, there's talent that comes up through that series that has the drive to be an F1 driver that unfortunately there just isn't a seat that becomes
Mm,
available at the right time for. Um, and they have to go somewhere, and you don't want to think of IndyCar as being the retirement home, but as
mm.
you mentioned, it is a great spot for drivers that deserve second chances.
Yeah, and I think because in the US as well, you've got your F4 US, you've got your Indy Next, you've got your Miatas, and you've got your own feeder series, but
Mhm.
it feels like it's less. I don't know
It's
what the word. It
disconnected.
just, yeah, there's it's not as straightforward a path maybe.
Right.
Whereas I feel like in Europe you can do your F4s, your Frackers, you do F3, you do F2, and then you're buggered.
Yeah.
Is if you go
Yep.
all that way, and if it just happens to be the wrong year, then you're stuck in a holding pattern like Drogovic is, and you end up going to Formula E 3 years
Yep.
later, going, "What happened? I was a
Yeah.
champion."
Yeah.
Or Mick Schumacher, and you go, "I was here," and then I get done over with Haas at the wrong time, and you
Yeah.
go, "Why couldn't I have done this a couple of years later? And I could have been really in there like them." And
Right.
it's so I think IndyCar, yeah, it's this great thing of the equality of it. It's like, yeah, we talk about these teams towards the lower end of the field. Um, but it feels like there's always a bit more potential with them each year than there would be if you look at the lower team in F1, say. You go, that's going to take years and years to turn around. Whereas this one, like, you never know. There is genuinely a chance you could get on the podium this year. You
Yeah.
can't rule it out. And you saw it even with PREMA, like you've got the Schwartzman pole at Indy, you've got a couple of top 10 finishes that no one was expecting from you. Go, you just if you can capitalize on the opportunities, you can get something. I think a driver of Doom's caliber, that would be perfect for him. And alongside someone who I believe has been in IndyCar before, not for very long, and more of a patchy sort of appearance here, there, and everywhere. But another driver I'd like to see do a full season, have no pressure on them, and all that sort of thing. So I stuck Etienne Calderon in there as my third
Interesting.
experienced female driver, and go, yeah, I'd like to just give you a full season, give you the shot that you've wanted, and I don't know why you weren't given the shot. I feel like if you're going to do something, do it properly. Don't just give people bit races.
Yeah. I had forgotten that she was in IndyCar, quite
It's
honestly.
been a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to Google search to fact check that. Yeah. 7 races in 2022. So, uh, um, yeah, it'd be interesting to see her back. Um, when you scroll through her lists of series, I mean, every year and a half
There's
she's
a
moving
lot.
somewhere else. Yeah, and
Yeah,
you know, at, at her age, she's not old, but in your 30s, you need to find a home.
Hmm.
Someplace a little bit more steady than just bouncing around the world in different series. So that would be an interesting
Come to
pick.
IndyCar, make your home
Yeah,
here.
come to IndyCar. Yeah.
And
So
then I think as well, I think all three would be great mentors for other younger women coming up. I mean, we saw obviously this year you had two, and one of them was only there for a round. And the
mhm.
previous year you had what was it, Lindsay Marie Brewer, I think was the only one, and she
Yeah,
was only there for a handful of races, and you
yeah,
don't see anyone else. I see people in the Spec Miata series in F4, but I don't see them moving up into Indy Next,
right.
and I wonder how much of that is opportunity and cost and all that side of things. I'm more familiar with the European side of it, but I just think you've got the you've got people, you've got the army you can reach out to help pull you up. Then I think as well,
Yeah,
so it's like do this for a few seasons, see what you can do. You get to have your dreams, and then you get to help build that out
yeah,
for the next one.
yeah. I think there's maybe some hesitation from a lot of teams. Not saying that there are female drivers that aren't capable, but uh, I think some IndyCar teams might be still gun shy after we were subjected to Milk Duno for so many years. I know that's a name that you may not be familiar with.
I'm
uh,
going to go do some homework after this.
yeah, Milka Duno was a female driver that we had in IndyCar for several seasons, and I think she was just there for um, as the token glamour shot
Yeah,
in
which
the
I
driver
understand that
line.
that is part of it still, but that can't be all of it.
Yeah, and
And that's maybe where they went wrong from the sounds of it.
yeah, had some mild success in other series, but certainly not enough to warrant a full-time IndyCar ride through multiple seasons. Uh,
Fair point.
I'll allow you to Google search that and go down that rabbit hole. Watch a
You'll
few
be getting some
highlights.
messages later.
A lot of really interesting post-accident interviews with drivers regarding her, several post-race interviews that reference her driving. And so I'm sure when you Google search her, you'll find plenty of those types of
I'll type the name in and see
interviews.
what the suggestions afterwards come up as and see what Google was trying to tell me.
Yeah.
We do have one final category that I added in sort of last minute because I just thought it'd be a bit of fun of an Indy 500 wish list. I did decide to cap it at five drivers because I thought otherwise we're just going to put in everyone that we've ever wanted to see in Indy 500. And I did have to limit myself at points because I did originally have Takuma Sato in this, but I thought, no, we're going to go for people that I haven't ever seen in it.
We
Yeah,
definitely went in different directions with this
yeah, yeah.
this
I've
wish
gone
list.
for yeah. I was going to say I've gone for fun, and but you've also gone for fun, just a very different way of having it. I think. And I was looking at your names, and I'm up for all of these as well. So maybe we
Yeah.
can get an extra 10 cars for the Indy
Yeah,
500
right.
next year.
Yeah.
Um, when you kick us off, because I think your first choice is maybe the only one I would have guessed, and is potentially the only logical one between the pair of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I went with Miles Rowe. Yeah, we talked about him in the last episode. We've mentioned him throughout the year as being a driver that uh, you know in Indy Next has proven that he's maybe not ready to move on to full time, but certainly is a very interesting idea to have for the Indy 500.
I contrasted that immediately with Mark Webber.
Yeah.
I I loved him in F1. He's not done anything aside from a bit of endurance racing, I want to say, since his F1 career came to an end. And I don't know, I see him around still. He keeps in good shape, and I just think it would be fun to see him in Indy 500. I think he's got the laid back but still very competitive attitude to go into a weekend like that where he knows it's one and done and have a good bit of fun with it. And could you imagine the scenes? I mean, could you imagine the scenes for any of our drivers, quite frankly, if they got in the top 10, got on a podium, or even won it, it would be one of the best,
Yeah.
if not the best, motorsport story of that year.
Yeah.
So I think that'd just be good fun, especially if I'm assuming that when we make these lists, that all five of them for both of us are in our respective Indy 500s. So for him to be beating the likes of these other
Yeah.
drivers that we've got, and for you to have the
Be
same, I
tough.
think that would just be a lot of fun. It's like you'd almost have a mini race with the five drivers between each other, regardless of the rest of the grid also
Yeah.
competing.
Yeah.
And so for him to not only beat the normal IndyCar guys to it on some level, but also these other people that I'm going to get to,
Yeah.
that would just be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Your next driver, I'm a huge fan of, absolute huge fan, but I cannot for the life of me envision any scenario where he'd want to come to America for a fourth time in a year. Uh, what was your thinking here? Just that it would be fun?
Yeah, essentially, my thing was it'd be fun. I saw obviously recently he went and did a bit of endurance racing and did well there. I just thought it'd be fun to just throw him in and over an Indy 500
Yeah.
just to see how he could do.
Yeah.
So
Of
I
course,
stuck
we're
Max
talking. We're
Verstappen in there.
Max Verstappen. Yeah. I've seen interviews with him in the past where the topic of IndyCar has been brought up, and there is zero interest there.
Yeah, yeah. It's
But
very much a. I'm assuming in my mind again. I'm going very left field with this. He's retired at the end of 2025. He somehow managed to steal the championship away from both McLarens. And like, what have I got left to prove?
yeah,
Nothing. Fuck it. I'm going to go to IndyCar for a race. he gets to reunite with Ricardo, who's obviously on the grid as well. He's there with Magnussen. He's there with Webber. He's there with these other great names in the sport like Scott Dixon Will Power. Why not go with like this is a fun epilogue for you to have for it. Your second choice though, the name is familiar, but I don't know anywhere near enough, so please educate me.
So my second driver, I'm going with J.R. Hildebrand. Um, Longtime IndyCar fans will remember this name. He uh, has raced somewhat recently in the Indy 500 in 2022 was his last race. But he is probably most famous for his rookie year in Indianapolis in 2011. He was the
Is this a
driver who was
good memorable or bad
no,
memorable?
bad memorable. He was leading the Indy 500 uh, at the end of the race and was the driver who crashed coming out of turn four, trying to
No.
pass Charlie Kimball, I believe is who he was trying to pass. And ultimately, Dan Weldon passed him on the front stretch and won the race. Uh,
What a way to lose it.
yeah, probably the biggest heartbreak, I would say, in motorsports history to be
It's a bold
that
one.
close. Yeah, that close to crash in the last turn as a rookie in the Indianapolis 500. And even to this day, as much as we respect Dan Weldon and honor him, based on the IndyCar rule book in that season, if they would have that race in particular was kind of a kooky race with caution flags, somewhat reminiscent of some of the races we had this year, uh,
Hmm.
with length of time between an accident happening and a caution flag coming out. Um, that race, they've been so quick to throw caution flags all day, and then on the last lap, JR crashes, and it takes him like 7 seconds to throw the caution flag. Now, Gerald Hildebrand did finish second in that race with three wheels. He
Yeah, but
kept his foot on the accelerator and crossed the finish line like a second behind Dan Weldon. If we would had been following the IndyCar procedures correctly that day, J.R. Hildebrand would have still won the race under caution. Um, I would love to see him come back and be that. I kind of view him kind of like Ed Carpenter,
hmm.
just that driver that's just always going to be in the Indianapolis 500.
I'm just thinking, is there some kind of loose way I can connect this to make a reference and say it was the unofficial 342 instead of who shot JR, it was who crashed into JR.
Yeah, that's right. Well, nobody crashed into him. That was the thing. He crashed himself. I mean, legitimately, he
That's
was,
the twist.
you know,
No one did. It was
he
all himself.
he had a huge lead over Dan Weldon, and he just swept too far outside. And that'd be another interesting watch for you this afternoon. Go back and if you just Google search the 2011 Indy 500, that's going to be the video that pops up.
Also,
And
I know IndyCar keep putting up historical races on their YouTube channel for free in full, and I have been tempted in this off season to take advantage of that and just watch some random races from different years. So I'm going to see maybe if they've got that one. I don't mind. I'll put this. I don't know if I'm glad I've got that spoiler now or relieved or not, because I was thinking maybe it's good I'm going into there not
I
expecting him
I
to do
can't do it
anything.
justice. But you can go back. There's a great video of the last. I think it's the last 8 laps of the race. It was definitely a fuel mileage race. You had a lot of drivers that were leading the race that dropped out and had to come in for splash and go stops, and uh, it's a fun watch. I highly recommend.
I'll open another tab, put some dramatic music on in the background to follow it the whole way and see if I can time it to get to that last corner.
Yeah, yeah. For my third driver, I went with Jack William Miller.
A name I'm
Uh,
again familiar with, but couldn't tell you
mm,
anything about.
yeah, he's in Indy Next, current Indy Next driver.
Okay, it is that one. Okay.
Yes, it is that one. But obviously, his father was somewhat of a larger personality in the Indy 500 during his racing days. Dr. Jack Miller. Um, yeah, the racing dentist. He's a local dentist here in Indianapolis that just raced sports cars, raced club cars, and then had enough money to buy himself an Indy car. And so
If you weren't
it'd be
convinced
neat to
dentists made
see.
a decent amount of money, this is the
Yeah,
story for you.
it would be fun to see his son move up. He's I'm guessing dad is funding part of this challenge for him
Hmm.
in Indy Next, but capable driver in Indy Next. But I think it'd be fun to see kind of a legacy driver like him, who had a
Yeah.
father that ran in the 500 come in. So
No, I could see that. Yeah.
your
I
third
went the different
driver,
route
yeah,
again.
your third driver is one that I'm on board with.
Yeah, I noticed that, and this is the last. This is where the pattern ends. I've gone for former or current Red Bull drivers without realizing. There's a lot of them. This is my fourth one in this entire episode without realizing. Um, Again, much for the same reason as I put Mark Webber in. I think it'd just be a lot of fun coming into the weekend as a whole. The behind the scenes of it, the racing itself, regardless of the result, would just be a great time. So I'm going to throw David Coulthard into the Indy 526. Why not?
Yeah,
Be a lot of
yeah.
fun. Fun is definitely what
I'm
I've
on board
used
with
for
that.
this.
I'm definitely on board with having him come over here.
Yeah, he's just good value for money, regardless of where you put him. And I think that it'd be interesting to see because I think the oval racing would scare the living daylights out of him. But
Mhm.
also, I think once that adrenaline's up and he sees Mark Webber's there and he sees Verstappen's there, he's thinking, there's fun to be had here.
Who was your fourth driver?
I'm going for a current F1 driver in this one again to keep that pattern going slightly. I just think, again, it'd be a fun addition. I don't know how long he's going to stay in F1. I don't know if he would then want to go into single seater racing elsewhere or if he'd just be happy to retire or what. But I just think Nieuwe Hulkenberg would be a great bit of an addition to the Indy 500 and then maybe looking to get a seat even for
Yeah.
27 if we're doing this time next year. I don't know. I just IndyCar and Hulkenberg just again fits together nicely, and I think he'd get the it'd just be a nice swan song for him. I think in this instance, it would be a retirement home for him. But I think if he had a two, three, 4 seasons in IndyCar, he could get some nice results. And I dare say it'd take him less time to get on the podium in IndyCar than it would if he would have done it in F1.
Yeah.
How about
Uh,
you?
I'm going with this year's Brickyard 400 winner, Bubba Wallace.
I'm gonna say he did
This
do well
year,
this year, didn't he? I
yeah,
was just thinking back.
NASCAR, yeah, NASCAR returned to the Oval this year in Indianapolis, and Bubba Wallace was winner. I would love to see something where like the the Brickyard champion one year has to come back and run the Indy 500, and then
Be fun.
The Indy 500 champion has to come back and run the Brickyard 400.
I'd be up for that. If they're trying to do these interesting NASCAR
Yeah,
crossovers next year, then why not have that be part of it? Yeah, Bob
yeah.
Wallace, I've always kind of liked him up. When I started watching NASCAR, it's been very loosely, and I was saying to you in the pre-show about there's the Netflix semi-docu series that focused on a few of the drivers. They focused on him a little bit in their first season. I had no idea why they'd selected the drivers they had. I was like, I'll find out hopefully over the course of these episodes. And a little bit like Will Power when I first got into IndyCar, I just kind of was drawn enough to and go, oh, I can root for you. I don't have
Mhm.
there's a likability, so why not
Yeah.
bring him in? And I think would complement the other NASCAR drivers you brought in as well,
Yeah.
which is obviously what you've
Uh,
done with your last one as well.
yes. Yeah. My last driver is also a current NASCAR driver, but as almost a local boy, Chase Briscoe.
Mm.
Um, a name that you may or may not be hugely familiar with
Familiar
based
with in
on his
terms of I
age.
see it and recognize it in the Indian NASCAR highlights that I
Yeah.
watch.
Um, he's from Southern Indiana. Obviously, his kind of trajectory through auto racing kind of took him along the same path as like Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, lots of uh, open wheel dirt tracks, small ovals. Um, and so, uh, in about 10 years ago, he made the jump to stock car. type racing, moving from Indiana to North Carolina. It's kind of the IndyCar version of NASCAR, or Indianapolis version of NASCAR,
Yeah.
with all the teams based there, and has had, a couple of very successful seasons. This year, he's, I think currently fourth in the championship, and is set up to move to the championship round. And his, even though he had kind of the same background as a lot of stock car drivers coming up, very easily could translate into open wheel, into single seater. He's proven that not only is proficient on ovals, but also is pretty good road and street course driver as well. And I toyed with the idea of probably putting him onto a team, into a dream team for
Mm.
next year. But I would love to see him come to Indianapolis as well.
Well, I think a lot of these, well, definitely more so mine than yours, but of the idea of it would be a fun one-off thing. But yours, I think I could see it with all of them if it goes well.
Mhm.
It's then there is potential for more later if they want it, and I
Yeah,
think that's not a
yeah,
bad eye to have on that. And yeah, four of the five of mine are, nah, this is just fun, and I don't
yeah,
actually think anything more is necessarily going to come of it. Hulkenberg of the four I've mentioned so far probably the closest, but even then that's a bit of a stretch.
mhm,
Whereas yours, I think,
yeah,
yeah, if they did want to make the switch, if it goes well, everyone's thinking never would have considered Chase Briscoe
mhm,
or Bubba Wallace,
yeah.
but you know what? Maybe that kooky man's onto something.
Now, your fifth driver, you're going to have to help me with. I am not familiar with this name at all. So,
I finally
no.
caught him out on something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went for this is one driver where I thought in the same way that you thought with several of yours, where Indy 500 would be a great idea to introduce them to the sport, to give them a shot, and to see what would happen, and there's potential for growth there. And so I've gone for Marta Garcia. She's younger, I believe, than all of the other female drivers that I've named so far. She drove in W Series. She did well there. She then won the first season of F1 Academy when that got introduced. I think she should have been someone who, instead of having to go into F1 Academy, should have been helped to get into Formula 3. She'd been around for long enough at that point to have warranted the opportunity. She then has since gone on to do a bit more single seater racing, but has then had to go into endurance racing, and has done pretty well there. The European Le Mans Series in particular, with some decent success. And I just think another driver where I've got nothing against endurance racing, but it also always just feels like there's more opportunities there than there are in
Mhm.
single seaters. And it frustrates me when you can tell that a driver wants to be in single seater, but has to go and kind of forge a path elsewhere. And that's perfectly fine because, yeah, I very much enjoy and keep enjoying endurance racing, but I would like to see them develop their single seater career a bit more. And
Yeah.
I think she'd be someone where, a little bit like with Miles Rowe for you, there is that potential there. And I would love to see that then and then have a chance of a seat at a team in 27 in
Mhm.
my eyes there. So I
Uh,
think she's severely underrated, I think.
Now, I will say I cheated a little bit, and I picked a sixth driver for this
I wasn't
category.
against this though. I
I,
saw this. I did the quick
I,
Google to remind
I,
myself, and I thought, yeah, uh,
I picked a pace car driver, and for the 500, my 500 wish list pace car driver is Robert Wickens.
I kind of I'm glad I didn't think of this because you kind of chosen the perfect one because I don't think I could then now whoever I choose is it's not good enough
Yeah,
in
yeah,
comparison.
yeah. Robert Wickens was, when he came to IndyCar, he came in with such a huge splash, taking pole in his very first race, and it was just so unfortunate that we didn't get to see what he was going to be capable of.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, had an absolute horrible accident at Pocono, which uh, I'm personally am grateful that Pocono has been removed from the IndyCar calendar. It's a track that unfortunately ended so many great careers, and
Hmm.
he is.
It's a great name
Uh,
for a circuit, but that's about the only thing it's got going for it,
yeah.
unfortunately.
And big personality hasn't you know listeners that may not be totally familiar with him, he's back racing now, even though he's
Mm.
paraplegic.
I don't know if
You
you
know,
saw, there's a great
he,
two-part documentary on the Autosport YouTube channel, which details kind of his crash and his return to racing and how he's been
yeah,
getting on with these driver aids that you obviously need for a
yeah,
driver of him. But the
yep,
results he's getting already
yeah,
are astounding.
yeah, and love, yeah, just he was a big personality, even in the short time that we had him in the series, and just a real joy to be around. And I think that it would just be fun to have him, the story behind him, and coming back to Indianapolis. I think would just that would be probably better than a lot of the stories of people coming to Indianapolis as drivers. And he'd be the pace car driver.
I think as awkward as it would be on the one hand, because you'd be able to guess pretty easily because of the future, it would be great to have this mysterious identity for who it is, and then get the helmet lifted. But I think you'd have to maybe do that behind a curtain first of all and have
Yeah,
nothing, because otherwise, if you see the wheelchair, you probably have an idea straight
yeah,
away. But that would be quite a to see and hear the crowd and the drivers reacting if no
yeah,
one's told any of them who the pace driver is going to be. That would be quite
yeah.
something.
That would
There's
be
your
pretty
idea,
cool.
IndyCar people. If you
Yeah,
listen
that's
next year, do it.
right. Just we'll get him into the Corvette pace car back in the garages, and then let him drive
Mhm.
out.
Yeah, yeah. Smuggle them in and then just the visor. You don't
Yeah.
recognize me? Boom.
Yeah. So this was a fun episode. I had a lot of fun with this one.
Yeah, I was thinking how many different ways can we spin this off into other episodes that we could do something wrong. We have to think on that. We're going to be
Yeah.
a little while before the next episode. Well, maybe there'll be a
Yeah.
bit more news and we can discuss some of that soon. But
Yeah.
I'll have to have a think of some more ideas of this nature and see what kind of chaos we can cause.
Yeah. Maybe I'll take a camera and we'll tour Michael Andretti's home.
You know, I why would they not let you view it?
Yeah,
Is my
right.
question. Just have a viewing. You
I
just put on a nice
there
suit.
probably there's probably a vetting process for getting a tour over there. Probably want to check my financials uh,
Just
before
say you're
tour.
just doing a piece for On the Curves IndyCar, and they'll let you in.
Yeah. Oh, sure. They'll just open the gates up. Yeah.
Well, you never know.
That's right. So we'll be back at some point once we get some more IndyCar news other than home listings, and we'll be excited to
We've
see
gone
everybody
from
then.
Andretti and Team Penske moves to home listings. We need something to happen.
Take care, everyone.